What's up, everybody? It's me, Danae. I have I guess I have a bit of a preview for you. I didn't do an extensive pre-shuffle, but I was catching a vibe in this regard, right? Either someone is about to come into your life completely changed and transformed, maybe even grown up, perhaps actually in age or physical or some type of aesthetic transformation. But I got the sense that it's more of a maturation or an evolution, that someone that you may have known in a different season of life, a different time, a different part of your life, maybe even someone you knew as a kid, is about to, or when you were much younger, and maybe you both were much younger, is about to resurface, or you're about to become reacquainted with them, perhaps reconnected, depending on how the initial acquaintance goes, I guess. That you are just going to notice a significant change in, and it's going to be good. It's definitely going to be good, but it's going to kind of be a bit of a surprise, like something about them that has changed so much, either you just wouldn't have expected out of them, or I don't know. I don't. That's what I was kind of picking up. This is something that is surprising, maybe even a bit shocking, but all I felt was a good thing. There were, all that I could see was it being a pleasant surprise. Like, oh wow, such and such is all grown up, or oh wow, they're looking quite distinguished now, and it's a good look. You know what I mean? Or oh wow, they used to be super skinny, now they're super buff, or oh wow, they used to be really quiet and introverted, and now they're so emotionally expressive and so deep. And perhaps it was something that was always kind of brewing within this person's being, or was a developing, so to speak. But it's something about it, like being full grown, full bloom, and on full display as well, like something that you won't be able to miss, that may add either a whole new level of attraction or another layer of attraction to them, or for you for them. That was the main part. And then I was thoughtful, like, I wonder why I saw that as someone coming in, because it could absolutely just be you actually having that effect on others. But the first thing I saw was you having that observation of someone that you are reconnected to, or reunited with. But it very well could be the other way around, that you are emerging, or kind of like maybe coming out of your shell, or coming out of solitude, reintroducing yourself to the world to an extent, and either one or a collective of folks are experiencing you quite different than how they remember you. Again, much of all the other things apply, but when I thought about it that way, it felt more energetic than it was aesthetic. Something a bit more spiritual, maybe even in what you talk about, how you express yourself, your beliefs, maybe how you live your life, or could even be as practical as just what you're doing for a living, compared to what they either always knew your interest was, or maybe just people's own ideals about where they expect you to be, or having no expectation at all. But the same is also true if that is the experience that others are having from the outside, and it is a good thing. It's a pleasant surprise, and it's one that will also invoke a high attraction, hopefully in your favor, for sure, that people are going to want to connect with you more intensely and intentionally, and perhaps more deeply, and because of this new level of traction and maybe fascination that you project. All right, so I guess I did have I don't know, I wasn't shuffling that long. I was almost, pretty much about to call it and just do fresh messages altogether, like, oh, let's just see what comes out. But that definitely did speak to me, so I guess there's some value there, but I don't know how it's going to carry out when we start pulling. All right, so it is Saturday, August 15th. It's 6:15 on the clock. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you are having a great weekend. This is like me jumping in, making a rest stop from a busy weekend. I've been all over the place this week with my son. It's been movies, it's been beach, it's been water park, it's been amusement park, it's been the mall, it's been dinner, it's been all types of stuff. This has been kind of like our excursion. It's been it didn't, I didn't mean for it to be, but it's been like an excursion intensive week, which is why I haven't been present every day, unapologetically, of course. And why I'm just kind of stopping in for a quick message now. So I say all that to say that it's been much needed leisure and what do you call it, like not extracurricular, but what's the word, not I don't know, I guess like amusement, so to speak, recreational or something like that. And I hope that if you haven't gotten your fix in, had you a funnel cake, perhaps some cotton candy, something sweet, something seasonal that you may not be thinking about in another couple months or so, or that you will wish you did have when it was in season. I hope that you find the time in the next couple of weeks to have that indulgence, because it really does tantalize the senses. It really, really does give you, like I always say, like storing up the summer sunshine in your pockets to take into fall and winter, when things kind of slow down and get a bit more serious for the most part, and sometimes a bit more solemn or melancholy in different ways. So yeah, we've been having a ball. We really, really have. So I hope you have too, or that you find some time to do so. All right, so let's see what we got here. Work. I did see that when I was pre-shuffling though, and it came up for me that someone has done a lot of work on themselves. That's how I literally did see that. And that's the initial thought, the thought that I had immediately, that someone's done a lot of not self-help, but personal improvement. They've been perhaps working in a practical sense on something, whether it be a job, a project, a business. They've definitely been keeping themselves busy, and that busyness has been productive, like not just into a whole bunch of stuff, but actually cultivating creativity. And there's something to be said, like when you're working in this mode with the Eight of Pentacles, like you're doing something that you're totally invested in, and that I say that you would almost do for free. And that's very that's definitely a way to evolve character, and even evolve energetically, is when you find something that you can kind of immerse yourself in, that is also productive and perhaps even profitable. It definitely does something to you to see your hands, your mind, your energy at work, and for that to reflect back to you just how much value you truly do, you truly do have. So I give, and this is like the precursor for the Nine of Pentacles, where you really see the fruit of your labor, and it's very affirming and solidifying of your supreme esteem, to know that, to have like the evidence to know that whatever you put your mind to is has a promising has a promising result, let's say, or there's some reward there that you can more than likely look forward to. So somebody that works hard here, and not just working hard for survival, but they know the value of work and devotion. More importantly, that's really the key word. Someone that is devoted to their own craft, their own cultivation. So that's why they can show up in a way that seems impressive or whole and perspective, that seems like a prospect of interest and intriguing to want to kind of get to know, because what they may do behind the scenes or what they've been doing has somehow kind of integrated with the character that they project outward. So that makes a lot of sense to start. All right, let's see what else. We're going to keep this real short, kind of. Oh, well, Ace of Swords, yeah. And it's honest work. It's honest. It's an honest living here. High integrity. Whatever they do, the baseline has to be integral. Like, that's the foundation, it can't be anything less. So this is not someone that would find themselves mixed up in a get-rich-quick scheme or any type of scamming or cutting corners, or even anything like, honestly, as I was saying before, you wouldn't even find someone that could sacrifice doing what they love for the so-called sake of survival, because there's a realization that also is a breach of integrity. When you're doing something outside of what is purposeful and productive, it can also go against your morals and ethical standards, if they're set to a certain level. Now, it just depends on who you're talking to, because some may value the quantity of their return for work than the quality. But this is not that. This is someone who's definitely quality overall. Now, quantity ain't bad, because 8 ain't bad at all. That's getting much closer to the 10, but it's the priority of the quality that is infused in the work and in anything that they put their heart and their mind and their soul into. It's going to be honest. It's going to be solid and grounded. That's beautiful. Okay. And maybe somebody thinks that way about you. Maybe they can observe that about you, or they see that upon, again, reuniting or becoming reacquainted with you. And it could be someone you knew in high school or in college. It doesn't have to be significantly far back like diaper days, but some might be surprised about your work ethic and what it is that you do value about what you do, or how you spend your time, your energy, your money. Yeah, it's something here about this for sure. Like, it's inspiring. It's inspiring. To me, with this Ace of Swords, it's like how you live or what you do or how you're showing up overall. It has this effect of inspiring a fresh perspective in others, either about you from what people have experienced before of your, or how they knew you in your past, but more reflectively, it feels like to them. Like, you may have people reconsidering what they do for a living and how much they actually love it, or what they spend their time on, what their priority system looks like in their lives, how they spend their money or don't, or save or whatever. Like, it feels way more energetic and spiritual, but it's like you just kind of doing what you do, and it's somehow being noticeable now, maybe in ways that it wasn't before, maybe put on display or just kind of just unveiled in a certain type of way, um, seems to be have inspiring others to kind of like check in on themselves in a positive sense. Definitely not like it's an inspiration in a positive sense, like looking at you do something a certain way and it's like, well, damn, I never thought of it like that, or I never considered that possibility for myself, and having them almost explore what that might look like for them. If they were to be so insistent, so bold, so brave, so intentional, what would that look like in their life? Interesting. By the way, I'm using the Mahogany Tarot deck again. I love this deck. I was going to go back to black and white, but I was like, why would I? Not right now. I really love this deck. It's all the things you want in a traditional deck with a little bit of season, a little bit of color. Wow, justice, yeah. Yeah, you got people really thinking about what is like a righteous life. That's what I'm getting from this. And not exclusively or stringently religious, you know, because nothing in these cards indicates that, but it's something about like, how can I say this? I guess just really taking inventory over their lives and their existence, and reflecting on their decisions and actions and what it's afforded them up until this point, and how or what, if necessary, there are changes that can be made to bring balance and harmony in the most ideal way, perhaps in ways that may have been taken for granted or even like dismissed before, like, oh, I don't need to be living, you know, I don't need to be working in my passion. I just need to be making money. You know, as long as I'm making money and I'm able to afford a certain lifestyle, I'll be happy with that. But then upon reconsideration, it's like, well, maybe I would be happy actually doing something that I find joy in, or something that I've always wanted to do, or starting my own business, or incorporating my passion into my work life, or whatever, just incorporating more passion into my conventional life. It's something here about that really is inspiring. It inspires others to kind of like take creative control, in a sense, like to get to the bottom of things, like the truth of things, and really take an inventory that is going to be like revelatory, or is that the right word? Yeah, like that brings revelation, that can actually lead to some type of reaction or response, like some actions that could perhaps be taken on account of what is revealed or newly understood. Even if the action is just to change your perspective, that is an action that often is the precursor for any physical or material change to occur. So it literally could be, again, about someone changing their perspective, or having evolved with a changed perspective about work and creativity. And like, work and reward is the thing. Yeah, work and reward. And we all are kind of having a makeover of that, to be honest, you know, collectively. about what it actually takes to afford a fulfilling life. And considering, really, like, again, inventory is the thing that keeps coming up. Like, considering maybe old ideals, perhaps that may even be a bit outdated, or misinformed or whatever, and how they align with who, again, here it is, with who you've evolved, who you've grown up to be. Now that you may have had some experience, seen a little bit of the world, or had some trial and error, lived a little bit of life. Many of us are of the age to know exactly what we desire, and at least what we don't. Seriously, we may settle for the things that we don't, or make concessions for it for the meantime, but we know, if you love your job or you don't. If you feel completely engaged in a relationship, a partnership, or if there's still some resistance there on one side or the other. I should say immersed in a partnership. If your day-to-day life is the one that you would choose to live above all else, or if it's just what you're settling for. So it's something about the knowing of those things inspiring some type of reaction or response now. Perhaps you being the catalyst for that reimagining, or someone coming into your life and either lending that spark of inspiration or and revelation, or adding to what you already got going on, which is even better. That it can help you advance, enhance your perspective, and maybe even expand it. It definitely heavy. I felt catalyst on that real strong, because justice is definitely about cause and effect. There's something here that's triggering in a good way. It invokes some type of like natural response, natural order. Ooh, the 10 of Pentacles. I know that's right. This is really dope. Look at that, from 8. And what I say, like some enhancement or expansion, magnification, multiplication is what I really mean to say. Multiplication is underway on account of this encounter, or on account of this is the potential of the effect that you bring to an acquaintance or a connection. Just prosperity in, the most ideal sense of the word, that someone could all of a sudden just burst with ideas and enthusiasm and creativity and optimism. Here it is, because those are all, as I was saying, from the 8 to the 9, which is not here, but that's what is implied in between this jump. But that 9 is that, like, where you've cultivated all of the spiritual abundance that now has materialized, and it don't get no more actual and practical than the 10 of Pentacles here, where the spiritual work, the inspiration is even more precious, as a matter of fact, than you giving somebody $1 million, because that's the part that creates the wealth. That's the aspect of the self that creates the wealth, and then also knows how to manage it, to steward it, to multiply it, so that it becomes something that isn't just fleeting or fly by night or slip, sand between one's fingers, but it becomes something that is sustainable, and also that you can pass on and pass down, leave behind, if you will, pay forward, best case scenario, Yeah, definitely with the Justice card. This is what is the word, like, why I hear cataclysmic? That sounds negative. I don't think that's it. But that word catalyst keeps coming up in my head because it's something sparky or initiating, or like a domino effect, or maybe catalytic is the word, not cataclysmic. Let me just say, it's like where one thing kind of like initiates the other, and so on and so forth. Let me see. Where you may have a chance encounter with someone, and if you hadn't met them, like, well, clearly that's not the word, or is it? Let's say, no. Cataclysm. I don't see cataclysm. No, God, no. That's the opposite. Disaster, collapse. I mean, I guess depending on what state of mind you're in, it could be. But the opposite of that cataclysm is blessing, good fortune, good luck, happiness, miracle, wonder, success. So whatever I'm thinking of is the opposite of what's popping in my mind, at least for what I'm trying to convey here. But, again, it depends on who you happen upon, as to how they revere you, or they revere the encounter with you. Because on the other side of that, of course, we know everybody is not going to be positively inspired by your growth. For some, it might actually be an offense, or like provocative in another type of way. Yeah, I don't know what I was hearing in my head, but we got to the meat of it, which is the opposite. Good fortune. And when I was looking at justice, I was definitely hearing karma. Well, hell, if I ever see any so far, or maybe we're talking about dharma more specifically. Great karma, but definitely dharmic. This is a dharmic energy here. That maybe you spark or ignite, initiate, activate. That's the word. Activate. It's an activation. You do this for others. Someone that you're about to encounter, as if you, I mean, not to, because I know anybody in this energy is not sitting around like, I can't be no more elevated or no more ascended. But just what I was going to say is, just when you thought things couldn't get no better, or you couldn't get no higher. And I don't really think it's a matter of you not thinking you could, but here is the unsuspecting piece, the pleasant surprise, is that who it is that brings this activation to you might be the surprise. Like, you never would have thought it was coming from so-and-so. In the same way that some folks probably may not have, or okay, not all those things, but some folks may not have expected to be activated by you, to be inspired by you. It's a surprise element here. Whether I feel like it's all sides. I feel like there's a reason that the channel was interrupted to say, well, why did you just think it was just who you're going to meet. It's also about you. And perhaps here it is, the karma, dharma of it all is because you've been operating as an activist, a catalyst in others' lives, is the reason why you're now attracting that same fortune into yours. Someone that can come into your life and take that idea you had to a whole nother level. Or just it doesn't even have to be so hands-on, but sometimes you can just become acquainted with someone that could just be a breath of fresh air or just add value to your life in a different way. It could be in companionship, someone that kind of sees the vision for you, even if they can't necessarily lend a hand per se, like actually put their hand to the plow, but they respect what you're doing or how you live or how you operate, who you are, your integrity, like something like that sometimes can be a bit of a missing link to what all that you needed to advance so that much more, or to even be acquainted with other people that are on the same vibe, in the same tribe as you. Okay. That keep you going, keep you motivated just by association. To have friends that are entrepreneurs or that really love what they do, love their job, and are really good at it, that share the same interest as you. Just that little, that simple pleasure, seemingly simple pleasure, can absolutely be activating in ways that you wouldn't even know that you needed it to be, or that you certainly weren't expecting it to be. Yeah, something about community here too is growing for some. Maybe even like a coming together of tribe in different ways, in different spaces, where there's like a magneticism happening, where folks are just kind of stumbling upon their people, whether it's romantically or I'll share this. I was talking with a nail tech today, and she was telling me about how we were both kind of vibing about like how friendship has changed, how you cultivate it, how you pursue it or not, the friendships that you've had having changed as you age, as you grow up. And she was like, we were just joking about just how less social we are, the older that we get. And she was saying that she had kind of burnt out a little bit, having to cultivate camaraderie in different circles, especially on account of her kids. She has 3 kids, and she's like, my 2 older ones are always revolving in sports, and then it's like a revolving door. You meet moms and you become cool, and then the season's over, and then some may come back, some may not, or you move on to a team, and it's just always having to kind of get reacquainted with new faces, new energies all over again. And she's like, and now I got a 5-year-old and he's getting active soon, and now I'm, already gearing up. So it was jokingly, it was lighthearted, but she was saying that she was just hoping to have to find a family that kind of mirrors her family, where every kid can be accounted for in terms of companionship, and that they get along with the husband and wife really well. And lo and behold, she found that, even down to the fact that the 2 husbands have the same name, and they both have like a multicultural dynamic where one spouse is Latin, the other spouse is Latin, and each of their kids is the exact same age and same genders. It's like crazy, and they get along so well, and all their values more or less are like aligned and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I was just saying that to say, like, it wasn't a hard prayer or a desperate one, but it was something that mattered to her and has proven itself to hold more value than she had even kind of lightly projected it would, because she's like, that's it, I'm not making any more friends, this is it, we stuck for life type of thing. And that's really special, to have that type of synergy with folks, um, that kind of suit your dynamic collectively, not just one good mom friend, or friend, your kids are good friends, but the mom, like, they alright type of energy, or the dads, they don't really vibe too much. But it's just really cool. And I'm saying that to say that I'm seeing that on a larger scale, where folks of like minds, like hearts, shared intentions, goals, more all aligned in integrity, though. Like, you could have multiple walks of life, doesn't have to be identical or anything like that, but all this unified under integrity and honor and respect, and just having a high value for life. That's something that really is shaping out for those that are in the market for it, where you're going to find your people, you're going to know your people are going to know you, your partner is going to know you, or those that are already in committed situations, relationships, so on and so forth. Something is about to be taken to the next level. Perhaps you two together are activating some new level of achievement, accomplishment, success, good fortune, luck, all the stuff that was the opposite of cataclysm. If anything, it's a cataclysm for adverse energies that definitely seek to keep us separate, keep us in isolation, with no particular purpose or productivity about it, if they can help it, or if it can help it, I should say, and to perpetuate the illusion that you're kind of all alone, or that there's nobody that you'll ever be able to fully relate to, like be yourself with and around, fully express yourself to, and they actually get it, or they understand, or they support. There's something so very pure here. I love it. I love it. And again, emphasis on that pre-shuffle, that is coming in surprising packages and in surprising ways, and perhaps even in astounding magnitudes, because this Ten of Pentacles is big here. That's something very rich. Very, very sustainable and stabilizing. And like with Justice here, it's like, oh wow, you see how easily that flipped over? I don't know if you did, if it was on camera, but it just like lightly flipped over. So sweet. Six of Pentacles. Look at that balance. And was I about to say that? I was thinking it if I didn't. Yes, I was about to say that. I was about to say with Justice here, it's like what you deserve. And then the Six of Pentacles is exactly that. Probably from a contrast from Five of Swords energy, where you may have felt at odds in your life, or that you had to fight for everything, or always be on guard because you never quite know what people's motives are, intentions, or you never quite know if you can fully you can fully trust yourself with others, So the purpose and the I don't know how to say, like the production of the periods of solitude and even isolation to some degree, were for you to build that firm foundation, working on yourself, for yourself, so that you wouldn't need to be dependent on it. You wouldn't be easily swayed, manipulated, or quick to settle or sacrifice from what really aligns with your values and with what you desire to be, do, and have. You kind of had to build that foundation nice and firm and solid before it was sturdy enough to then attract with other things, other people, other places. Knowing exactly what those people, places, and things should look like, feel like, sound like, as opposed to what was quite the contrary in seasons past, even when you didn't necessarily know no better, even know yourself too well. You know, you had to learn and grow into that understanding in order to be at your best, you know, to be in a position not only to be someone that can activate others, but also to be open enough to allow yourself to be activated, to be elevated and enhanced by your relationships. You certainly can't do that when you're afraid to be seen or heard or connected. You can't do that. And then sometimes, and we've had to kind of find the balance between being too open and too trusting and too willing and devoted to the wrong things or people and so on and so forth. So yeah, all that balance was cultivated, which is why Six of Pentacles and Justice here is like a doubling down on this being just, you know, like I said, dharmic. You know, what you've been creating, what you've been putting out there, now coming back to you and coming back with interest in a way. Five of Wands here. So much accomplishment, achievement here. Wherever you create home base, it's going to be a firm foundation, a solid foundation, maybe an actual foundation, because I felt that word strong. This could even be I just heard FBA, which is interesting because I've gravitated so much to these cards. I don't know, FBA could be significant. Foundational Black Americans kind of gelling together, you know, Black excellence at its most supreme, not just celebrity, maybe not even celebrity at all per se in the conventional sense, but they're almost being like a brotherhood and sisterhood that is really firming up. I'm getting something on this. Like a society of sorts, but that is not, but it's not like you can't, it's not divisive though. It's very much so productive. It's like, because I keep hearing the Underground Railroad in my head too. So it's something like, you know, like Black, like I said, Black excellence that is all interconnected, you know, where you might only be a few degrees of separate, like a very expansive network is what I'm seeing, perhaps nationally, but maybe eventually globally, of folks that just take care of each other, you know. And it's not that we don't take care of other things or don't have a consideration or care about other things or other people outside of that core identity of the connection, but it's taking care of self first. And that makes sense because of all I just said about kind of like the solitude, the necessary solitude of it all before you can expand out and reach out and start to become united with others. I'm seeing something about that here. It's already happening. It's already happening, but it's something about us becoming more aware and more intentional of our interconnectedness and really like harnessing and harvesting our gifts for the greater good of our communities. So how can we help each other be great so that whatever it is that we invest in, whether it be business or wherever we are on the grid, to be able to call somebody on the West Coast for something that you need, like, or be able to send somebody to somebody, like that type of interconnectedness, like, oh, you need such and such. Oh, I know somebody that does that, or I know, just having that type of network where it literally is it is sustainable in its own way, where you don't necessarily, it's not so much about paying or charging top dollar or anything. It's something about the energy of exchange that keeps the machine functioning, because each part, each piece of that machine has its own community or audience or customer to serve, whatever, family to legacy to serve, but somehow everybody's tapped into this bigger entity of sorts where you will never go without. Because if you don't know somebody, you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and there's such literally almost like a fraternity, sorority type of energy about it, where it's just, it goes without saying. What's understood doesn't even need to be spoken, that because of the connectedness, whatever you need, there will be a way made to provide that support, or to be even considerate, in pricing or whatever the space of convenience calls for, is there, because we're all unified for one more or less like overarching cause, which is to make ourselves better and to make the communities that we are immersed in better. Wow. I feel that so strong, and that's confirming for things that I have in mind personally, on how that gets to scale up even more than yeah. Everything you need: doctor, lawyer, someone that specializes in this business, accountant. And I'm just saying this on a small scale so that you can get the idea, but it's literally like everything under the sun that you could conceive to need is available within this house of, I don't even know what to call it, house of noir. That's not what I would call it, but I like the ring to it. So if you steal it, just know you're under judgment. You could have the name, but you could never create the energy. All right, let's see. That's too much. Wait, let's see. There's a couple more on this here. Something major is underway. And honestly, the community on that level might be the shock and awe to the nation and the world in large. To, like I was saying, it being an individual, or that being a perception of you, that could be the perception of the culture. For it to be, for us to finally come together in such a way where we are finally taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other, and not needing any assistance, no handouts, no pity, no nothing to do so, to maintain. that would finally be the turnout for all the years of the more than years, that's an understatement, lifetimes of trial and tribulation. And you know what? This brings me to, oh Lord, everything is downloading to me now, and this card is sparking it too. The other day, I had the last message. I had some pre-shuffle messages that came up, but they were kind of intense. So I was like, I need to sit with that for a little bit. But just here's a headline: The House Built by Slaves, which I believe is also the title of a book. But what I first heard was The House That Slaves Built, and I was like, where did that come from? And I went and looked it up, and it was a book that I've never read, didn't even know it existed, but that term came up. I must have seen it or heard it somewhere, I don't know. But it talks about the slaves that ultimately built the White House and how they made it legal, like they signed some type of, there was a bill signed during that time, some type of legislation was signed that would allow slaves to more or less be rented from the southern holdings to work with, of course, with no choice. They were literally like rented equipment and property to work to not only build the White House from the foundation, but then also there was a fire that happened and they did it again. They had them rebuild it at that time as well, or restore it. And I was getting all of these messages about, pretty much like how a lot of the foundations that were established here, in infrastructure even. I mean, take the emblem, the symbolism of the White House itself, and just allow that to expand on out through the nation. But energetically, culturally, soulfully, in so many ways, so many contributions have been made with no reward, no return, no recognition, just basic respect, let alone just allowance to live and be naturally. That is just, it has to turn over. It has to turn over in a way that's going to feel very unfavorable to those that have lived life on the other side of that privilege, in whatever way, whether it was unknowingly or omnisciently, knowing full well the privileges that they indulge in and the imbalances that they perpetuate, the prejudices, I should say, that they perpetuate. But this is a time of justice and judgment, and the way that is going to be on display, it already is astounding in ways that seem simple, like just how casual Black folks have been carrying on throughout this administration. We're just collectively not so outraged or even surprised about how things are going. It's just like, been down worse than this before. And it's just, there's a history of resilience against resistance, so it's nothing new. Of course, it's tiresome, but it's not nearly as much of an outrage or anything that, is unbearable, because we've kind of, as a culture, been conditioned by trial and tribulation to just know how to pick up and keep going, do the best with what you can, and not even just the best, but to literally almost be miraculously productive and creative with the means you have on hand, and to still make impact, to still be catalysts and activators, and within a society and within a nation that doesn't even really respect you holistically, So I don't know. It's something about that the ascension of Black people, you know. Oh, and this was the other thing that I heard around that in that same pre-shuffle. That's why I was like, yeah, it was too much, and I might still need to sit with it. But it was something about like Zion being restored, and what was it? It was another word. And reestablished, I think it was. Restored and reestablished or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Zion can be symbolic. It can be, you know, it just depends on how you see that word and how you connect to it. And it doesn't, for real, doesn't even have to be exclusive to race, because you could be within the culture and still not be in alignment with these values and in the way of truth and justice and honor and respect and, you know, all of those high vibrational frequencies. And this ain't no child left behind situation. It can very much be a each one reach one teach one, but only if you want to be reached and you want to be taught. That's the difference between the age of this. Whereas before, we kind of all culturally, meaning collectively, there's been a shouldering of the burden to kind of pull the culture on your your back, so that you feel like you're doing your part, you know. And of course, to no holistic avail, because you can only first do what's best for you, you know, before anything, and then the best that you can do outside of that. And there wasn't enough unity and collectiveness to some degree, and then also intentional. It's just a different timeline. I can't even say that because that wouldn't be fair to our ancestors. There was intention for unity, but there was also a lot of hyper induced fear for what happens when you do unify, burning down places and killing leaders and so on and so forth. So for every opportunity there was to organize and come together and build together, there was an even bigger resistance to destroy that effort, you know. And it continues to be the same today, but it's something about the timeline shifting more in favor of those that are working in that capacity with intention, that is assisting it to be more of a massive movement that not just has legs but has wings. That's what I'm getting. It's a covenant that's being reestablished and restored in a way that can make an impact, a more sustainable impact, let's say, than what may have been allowed to happen before. Because not to say it wasn't, there was any lack of trying or intention, but the opposition was great. And there was a great disparity between soldiers that were willing and able to really make, you know, to maintain the tenacity to hang in there against all odds, against the big monstrosity that was the opposition, to continue to hamper that effort at every turn. At some point, anybody would just be like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to just work this job so I can feed my family. I'm going to just keep my head down and be happy that I'm alive. I'm going to just work these fields, be a sharecropper, and be happy I got a place to eat. I mean, a place to sleep and something to eat, you know, and then on and on and on, all up and down the ages. But something's brewing, and it's a force that this time is unstoppable. and indestructible. Let me get one more and then I'm going to close out. And like I was saying earlier, for some, that is that is cataclysmic. For those that have been working for the opposite agenda for far too long, or that have been indifferent to seeing the effects of that agenda, but you know, as long as they're benefiting from it, there's nothing to be said. And that may even take a bit of the spoils from it when they can. You know, maybe I'm done here. Let's one more and then I'm going to shut it down. Wow, the Lovers. I know that's right. This is a whole new And look at it though, like what I just say about Zion. This is like the original man and woman here. It's like that covenant being restored and a whole, I want to say legacy, I want to say dynasty, but all of that feels too small. Like a whole nother, what, species? I don't freaking know. Is like a whole nother, what is it? A creation? I'm telling you, I can't settle on culture. I can't settle on dynasty or legacy. It feels too contained. It's like, what is the word? What's the word? Maybe I'm not supposed to say. Let me see. I'm gonna just look real quick. I'm gonna see. What's another word for creation? I see generation, establishment. I just feel like that's too small. Genesis, universe, world, life. Nah, this ain't it. This ain't it, y'all. I don't know. Civilization? Maybe. That don't even feel big enough. I don't know. A whole new beginning. Genesis is a word that came up. This is very, very important here. Because imagine like all that I said where it's a reconditioning of what we've always known, like I was saying before about the struggle, the trial, the tribulation, and just knowing that it just comes with the territory, especially of being Black in America. But imagine like incubating a civilization within a civilization, so to speak, that is not confined even by territory, kind of like the Underground Railroad, where it wasn't a railroad, no shade to Portia, you know, like it was a network, you know, it was connection across borders. in places where there would not be expected to be connection. And even with allies, that's the thing I didn't finish saying about it not being divisive racially so much, because as Black people, we usually love who loves us. It's just only now the frustration is just growing for the resistance to us just living our best lives naturally, organically, and it's much more outspoken and much more there's a much more assertive response to that. But generally speaking, we love who loves us, and we accept just about anybody if you come in with respect. For the best of us really do, and want to see everybody thrive. We don't want to infringe upon that for anyone else, especially knowing how it feels. So it's like that, not even that is a prejudice within a dynamic such as this, where if you ain't Black, you can, or where some may feel exclusive to some degree. Generally speaking, we just want the world to be a better place, or at least to create a world within a world that we can be safe in. So what I was going to say is, imagine that is recreated, and on account of it, children's children, and so on and so forth, like the promise to Zion, as a matter of fact, where there would always be an abundance, and where it may have been detoured or usurped in many ways, there is a restoration to that collective and that culture, that cultural dynamic, where now our children's children and so on and so forth don't really know the oppression and the resistance that we know. They don't have that same point of reference. You talk to some kids already now, you would think that they don't know nothing about racism, but we know that the stain on the establishment still has a trickle down effect even today, even and especially if you don't acknowledge that it does. It's everywhere. It's permeating everything, unfortunately. But imagine cleansing that auric field in a way that, again, is not restricted to boundaries or territories, and is so interconnected and interwoven that you really wouldn't know who's who and what's what unless you were an ally or an associate to the who's who and what's what, or some type of affiliate to it. And then those children that are bred within that system of reality, now that is that's their knowing. And so they don't grow up with a limitation mindset or a poverty mindset or a restricted mindset, because as far as they can reflect and reference, whenever there is a need, it can be filled. Again, whether you know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, needs are always met as far as they're concerned. And that mentality, again, gets to be passed on until it eventually, like, what is it, Darwinism or whatever, is cycled out, where there is only the concept of abundance and truth and inclusion in the most supreme sense, and limitlessness and integrity at the root of all that you do, and abundance. And so on, like the highest frequencies are being bred through this energy that I'm speaking of, to the point where that's all that there is. I don't know, but I see it and I feel it. And again, wouldn't that be a surprise? An unusual concept to consider? And for Black people to lead the charge for that, and maybe be the spark, the catalyst, the activation for other cultures to follow suit? Wouldn't that be interesting? And it not be divisive, but it just be like a unified state of mind, more or less, that you can take care of you and take care of your community, your family, your interest, without it being any infringement on anything outside of that. And then maybe even one day we can all actually really work together. You know, so something like that, y'all. Look at this. 2 of Cups and the Chariot. Well, that's what I'm saying. This is an unstoppable force here, this connectedness. And this is the covenant that I'm speaking of, that I'm about to put under justice. This is a covenant that could be reestablished. One person, one union, one community, perhaps one family, one community, one city, one nation at a time. A collective consciousness for supreme success, like only aspiring to the affluence that is of a high vibration and frequency, or that resonates on a high frequency. That being the determination here, like for this balance and harmony, not just to be expressed in, well, that to kind of like, yeah, be like the law of the land, you know, like the standard. Coming down to something that really is probably quite ancient, which is just treating others the way that you want to be treated. Imagine that concept really being upheld as the optimal resort. Imagine. All right. Well, I don't know. I feel like there's deeper I could go on this, but I've gone way, way, way over time, which usually signifies that there's more that wants to come out of this. So I don't know if there's more to be said or if it's just left to be experienced and observed. But we shall see. We shall see. All right. Anyway, thanks for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.